Welcome to NFL Nexus. So, the 2026 NFL Draft is officially in the books. And for the Minnesota Vikings, this one felt different. This wasn't just about adding some new players to the roster. Nope. This was the first major test for a brand new front office, a whole new way of doing things in the post-Kwesi Adofo-Mensah era. So the big question is, how'd they do? Well, that's what we're here for. We are going to break down every single angle of this fascinating draft class, grading the strategy, the players, and, maybe most importantly, the overall process.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll set the stage and talk about the new regime. Then, we'll dive into their huge, high-risk, high-reward first-round pick. After that, we've got to dissect the single most controversial selection of their draft. Seriously, people are split on this one. Then, we'll hunt for some hidden gems they might have found late. And finally, we'll bring it all home with the final report card for the entire class.
All right, so whenever you have a change in leadership, you get a change in philosophy. It's just how it works. This draft was our very first look at the Vikings under interim general manager Rob Brzezinski. And boy, was it an active weekend. They were making moves all over the place. This class is really our first real glimpse into his strategy for building a team and the process behind it.
And that, right there, is the million-dollar question we're trying to answer today. Was there a clear, thought-out plan here? Did the Vikings just stick to their board and take the best player available? Or were these moves part of a much bigger, more calculated strategy to build for the future? For a new front office, judging the process is every bit as important as judging the players themselves.
Every new front office wants to make a statement with that first pick, right? And the Vikings, well, they definitely did that. They didn't play it safe, not at all. Instead, they stepped up to the plate and took a massive home run swing, betting everything on pure, raw, unadulterated upside. So let's meet the guy they staked their first-round reputation on.
Say hello to Caleb Banks. Look at these numbers, 6'6", 327 pounds, with insane 35-inch arms. This guy looks like he was built in a football factory, and when you turn on the tape, you see it. He's an absolute menace, a gap-shooting disruptor on the inside. He is the kind of player that gives offensive coordinators nightmares, a force who can literally wreck a whole game plan all by himself with that first-step quickness and just raw brute power.
And this quote right here, this tells you everything you need to know about the philosophy behind the pick. Let's be honest, the 2026 draft class was considered pretty weak when it came to top-tier defensive tackles. So what do you do in that situation? Well, the Vikings' answer was to find the one guy, the one unicorn, who has the potential to be truly special, and bet that their coaches can unlock it. It's a huge risk, for sure, but the potential reward? Oh man, a truly elite, game-changing defensive tackle? That's astronomical. And that's exactly why the process behind this pick gets a really high grade, an A-. It's an admission that, hey, in a draft class that doesn't have a sure thing at this position, the most logical move is to swing for the fences. The Vikings pinpointed a player with a sky-high ceiling, and they weren't afraid to pull the trigger. It's a bold strategy, but if it pays off, this could take their defense to a whole other level. Okay, so let's shift gears. We're moving from a pick with a pretty clear, sound process to one that, well, it completely split the experts. I mean, it is so rare to see a sixth-round pick cause this much debate, but the Vikings' choice of a running back had analysts giving out grades on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. The player at the heart of all this controversy is Claiborne, a running back out of Wake Forest. And here's the kicker. The Vikings actually traded up to get him. So this begs the question, was this a brilliant move to go snag a talented guy who was falling down the board? Or is it a really questionable decision for a player who might not have a big long-term impact? Let's break down both sides of this argument. Okay, so on one side of the ring, you've got the C- argument. This viewpoint is all about the process. The question is, why would you trade a future asset, a 2027 sixth-round pick, for a player who, in this analyst's opinion, probably doesn't project to be more than just a guy in the rotation? The value just doesn't seem to be there if you don't see him as a future number 1 or number 2 back. But then, you flip the coin, and the A-grade argument sees this in a completely different light. They see a player with legitimate, blazing 4.37 speed, an electric playmaker who was ranked 144th on the consensus board, and that's the average ranking from dozens of experts, mind you, and the Vikings stole him at pick 198. They look at his ability to catch the ball and create mismatches and compare him to Miami's explosive back Devon Achane. From this angle, giving up a future late-round pick for that kind of value is an absolute steal. It's just a perfect example of how two experts can look at the exact same move and come to totally opposite conclusions.
You know, a great draft class isn't just about the big names you take in the first couple of rounds. The truly great teams, the ones that win consistently, build their rosters by finding real contributors and unbelievable value on day 3. The true quality of a draft is so often found in these later rounds, and it looks like the Vikings may have unearthed a couple of absolute gems.
Okay, let's start with this guy, Charles Demings. Now, if you haven't heard of Stephen F. Austin, hey, you're probably not alone, but I promise you, NFL scouts have. Demings was just completely dominant at the FCS level. The big question, though, like it always is with small school guys, is can they hang with the top-tier competition? Well, Demings answered that with a loud and clear yes at the Senior Bowl, where he more than held his own and proved his talent was absolutely not a fluke. Now that is a powerful statement. When an analyst calls a 5th-round pick their favorite selection of the entire draft, you know you've found some serious value. It just speaks volumes about Demings' potential and what he showed scouts when he went up against the best of the best. This is the kind of pick that gets fans, and especially coaches, incredibly excited about what's to come.
And all that excitement is reflected right here in the grade. A straight A. This is the dictionary definition of a value pick. You get a player with all the physical tools and that proven competitive fire in the 5th round, and then you get to hand him over to a defensive mastermind like Brian Flores. Demings is exactly the kind of high-upside developmental project that a coach like Flores can mold into a really quality NFL starter. Now let's look at another 5th-rounder, Max Bredesen, a tight end/fullback from Michigan. Now look, I get it, drafting a fullback might not seem like the flashiest move in the world, but this pick is a massive signal flare about where the Vikings offense is headed. The key to understanding this pick is the hiring of assistant head coach Frank Smith, who came over from the Miami Dolphins, an offense that is famous for its creative use of the fullback position. You see, Smith's offense in Miami relied heavily on a versatile fullback named Alec Ingold, and Max Bredesen looks poised to be that exact guy for the Vikings. That's why this pick earns a solid B grade. He's not just some roster filler. He's a strategic puzzle piece. He's going to be a core special teams player, a lead blocker to help spark the run game, and a crucial pass protector on 3rd downs. He's a blue-collar, do-it-all kind of player who fills multiple specific needs that were created by that big shift in offensive philosophy. So we've looked at the big swing in round 1, we've dissected the controversial pick, and we've uncovered the late round value. Now it's time to put it all together. Let's look at the entire 2026 Minnesota Vikings draft class and deliver the final verdict. And here it is, the whole class. We've talked about the big names, but let's dig into the rest of these guys to get the full picture. At pick 51, they grabbed linebacker Jake Golday. This is such a classic Brian Flores pick. A super smart, instinctive player who can read plays in a flash. He might not be the fastest guy on the field, but his ability to play in coverage and attack the run makes him a really valuable chess piece. That's a solid B+ value in the middle of the 2nd round. Then they doubled down on that defensive line, taking Dominique Orange at 82. He's a totally different style of player than Caleb Banks. He's more of a powerful, 2-gapping run stuffer who can just anchor the middle of that line. Getting a potential starting caliber run defender in the 3rd round is excellent work, earning another B+. Next up, at 97, they address the offensive line with Caleb Tiernan. This guy is a mauler in the run game, a true road grader who fits that physical identity they seem to be building. Now, he definitely needs some work in pass protection, but his raw power and that mean streak he has give him a really high floor as a future contributor. That's a solid B pick. The one real head-scratcher came right after that at 98, with safety Jacoby Thomas. Most analysts had him projected to go a round or 2 later, which makes this a pretty big reach based on consensus value. The Vikings must see a specific trade they absolutely love, probably his potential on special teams or his hitting power, but on paper, it's a questionable use of a top 100 pick, and that's why it gets the C grade. And finally, in the 7th round, they added center Gavin Gerhardt. He's what you'd call a high-floor, high-character player with over 40 starts in college. He provides immediate, quality depth on the interior line and has the smarts to maybe develop even further. A very safe, very sensible B pick to round out the class. So after all that, what does it all add up to? The final grade for the Vikings 2026 draft class is a very, very respectable B+. And honestly, that's a grade that reflects a solid, thoughtful, and really well-executed plan from a first-time front office.
And this grade is a direct result of a sound process. You see, the front office didn't just chase big names. They methodically went down the list and attacked their roster's biggest needs. They added valuable depth at key positions, which is so crucial if you want to build a team that can win year after year. They weren't afraid to take that calculated risk on a high upside guy like Caleb Banks, but they balanced that out by finding phenomenal value in the later rounds with players like Charles Demings. It was just a really mature, well-rounded approach.
So we're left with the ultimate question. A good process led to a good grade, but will it lead to a great future? You know, this draft class is filled with potential, solid depth, and a few guys who could be real game changers. Only time will tell if these players actually pan out, but Rob Brzezinski's first draft has certainly laid a very promising foundation for the new era of Minnesota Vikings football. What did you think of the Vikings draft? Let us know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please make sure to subscribe to NFL Nexus and like this explainer so you don't miss our next one. And a quick note, you can help support the channel by purchasing our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, and even adults. You can find the link in the description or just use the QR code you see on your screen now. Thanks so much for watching.